Those were the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. You're watching CNBC-TV18 and this is Reporter's Diary.
It all comes down to today, doesn't it?
Nirmala Sitharaman, Finance Minister, has delivered her maiden budget.
That's Nirmala Sitharaman's first budget and it packs quite a punch.
What is your single biggest risk that you foresee for the economy today?
To believe in itself and start moving.
Let me start the show by thanking you, the viewers. CNBC-TV18 has emerged as the most watched TV news channel on Budget Day. We were India's #1 choice with almost 60% viewership on Budget Day. And that's not all. CNBC-TV18 beat competition in the budget week as well with 60% viewership. And when the finance minister spoke after the budget, we had more than 98% viewership. CNBC-TV18 has been your budget destination for 19 years. The biggest voices on the market, economy and the top policymakers were on the channel. CNBC-TV18 was the most watched English business news channel on Budget Day. We here at CNBC-TV18 get you the real-time picture with the biggest and the best and want to thank you, our viewers, for your trust and continued support. Moving on to all the market action of the day, strong global cues helped the bulls make a comeback on Dalal Street. Nifty snapped its 4-day losing streak to end over 0.5% higher. So let's bring those charts up for you. The Nifty and Sensex posted their best one-day gain in the last 8 trading sessions. The broader markets rose in line with the benchmarks as the Bank Nifty snapped its 3-day losing streak. As you can see, all of those indices in the green. Onto a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Cash-strapped Divan Housing Finance Limited stakeholders today held a meeting to discuss the resolution plan for the mortgage lender. CNBC-TV18 learns that banks have granted DHFL additional time to present its proposal to lenders. Ritu Singh joins us now with the details on what transpired. Ritu, what have you picked up?
The key stakeholders of DHFL, including the core group of lenders, its bondholders, that is mutual funds and provident funds that have exposure to DHFL, SBI Caps, which is acting as the advisor to lenders, as well as the promoter Kapil Vadhavan, held a meeting to discuss the resolution roadmap for the company, which, remember, has total borrowings of over 1 lakh crore rupees. Now, we understand that banks have allowed DHFL 7 working days' time to present its resolution proposal to them, and they have also asked the DHFL promoters to pledge their shares as collateral if banks do agree to give them any fresh loans and sign an NDU or a non-disposal undertaking in favor of the lenders until this resolution plan is executed. Now, in the stakeholders meeting, the broad contours of the draft resolution proposal were discussed, including restructuring of loans with longer repayment terms, partial debt conversion and additional support by way of a new line of credit. Now, we understand that these mutual funds and pension funds have sought an assurance from the bankers that the final resolution plan would be collaborative and not lead to losses for them. Now, banks, we understand, on their behalf have assured them that the resolution plan would be comprehensive and will maximize value for all the stakeholders that are involved. Now, do remember, DHFL, we had reported, is understood to be in talks with various private equity players, including Aeon Capital, Cerberus Capital, as well as Oaktree, for a potential stake sale deal, which could fetch DHFL upwards of 7,000 crore rupees.
So DHFL, they're getting 7 more days for their resolution proposal. Thank you so much for those details, Ritu. Moving on, Axis Bank Managing Director and CEO Amitabh Chaudhary tells CNBC-TV18 that his bank is careful about lending as he believes that some sectors are showing signs of stress. And that's not all. He believes that they would have to adopt a more cautious approach when it comes to their growth outlook. When asked about the bank's fundraising plans, Chaudhary said that they will look at raising capital only when the right opportunity arises. Take a look.
We'll talk about the growth when we have the opportunity to talk about it. But yes, I think I'll only say that we have to be cautious about how do we look at growth going forward.
So, but when you're being conservative about growth and talking about a slowdown, what is the need to raise capital? I mean, how much lending are you going to be?
We have not said we are raising capital. The only thing we have said is that we are taking an enabling resolution to look at raising capital when the right opportunity arises. As far as the budget is concerned, I think it has given some clear signals in terms of what the government expects to see on the NBFC side. We are hoping that it can lead to some of the demand coming back. I think the finance minister has very clearly painted a vision and has backed that vision with some measures. Some measures will be rolled out over a period of time.
So my last question on the SR Steel verdict, are you a little upset about, what has come out? Lenders are obviously going to challenge this. But, what sort of precedent does it set? And are you going to be a little hesitant using IBC going forward?
Well, I mean, obviously the banks are talking about going to the Supreme Court and requesting them to relook at the judgment. It was a bit unexpected. So let's wait for the Supreme Court judgment before we start jumping to conclusions on whether IBC makes sense or does not make sense.
And in stock-specific action, Indigo continues to reel under pressure. The stock closed more than 3% in the red after news of a spat between its promoters broke out on Tuesday. We are now given to understand that the market regulator SEBI has called Indigo's company secretary for a meeting and sought a response to the ongoing spat between Rakesh Gangwal and Rahul Bhatia by the 19th of July. Meanwhile, reports suggest that Indigo shareholder pact will be checked by the government. Also, the agreement between Gangwal and Bhatia could be annulled if found in violation of the Companies Act. Remember, the stock saw delivery-based selling of 400 crore rupees just yesterday. And shifting focus to the slowdown in the auto sector, M&M's Pawan Goenka has told CNBC-TV18 that the first quarter of FY20 is the worst for passenger vehicles since 2001. However, he is hoping for a quick recovery like the sector witnessed at that time. He went on to back for government stimulus, making BS6 cost inflation GST-free in order to prevent a fall in demand. He also told us that the company has seen a degrowth of 15% in the first quarter and thus may have to revise FY20 growth guidance downwards from 5%. Meanwhile, Autobody Siam has said that festivities could help in demand revival and bringing the sector back on track. Take a look.
Last month we had, I think, 4 to 5 days of shutdown, which means on a 25 days working, we are about 20% shutdown. Yeah, that's right, 20% shutdown on a 25-day working. And the month of July is looking better. I don't know right now whether we will have a shutdown or not, but even if we did, it will not be 5 or 6 days. It will be somewhat lower. The tractor, we had said 5% at the beginning of the year, and we have seen a degrowth of 15% in the first quarter. In our internal estimate, the first quarter was supposed to be small degrowth, maybe 5% degrowth, but not 15%. And therefore, looking at the next 9 months, the 5% growth will require 10% growth for next 9 months to get 5% for the whole year, and 10% appears very unlikely.
July typically is not a very good month because of the monsoons and slowing down of various activities. July is till today not looking any better than June. So we are hopeful that September, due to festive season, should bounce back. With the inventory now under control, and hopefully the month of July also will lead to balancing of the inventories, I think the situation is only going to improve from here as far as the dealers are concerned.
Former SEBI Chairman UK Sinha feels that the budget proposal to hike minimum public shareholding in listed companies to 35% is a good move, but will take time to be implemented. That's not all. The former SEBI chief also feels that the rules, if implemented, should apply to every listed company, irrespective of who their promoter is.
If you ask me about 35%, my feeling is that it will take its own time. And it should take its own time, because 25 to 35 is a good move, but it's a big jump. So we should provide a reasonable time frame for doing that. And my second comment is that government should lead in this. The capital market rules should be agnostic to who is the main promoter or the main shareholder. Irrespective of that, rules should apply equally to everybody. Only then it can be implemented.
Latest on the Indo-US trade ties, a delegation of US trade negotiators are in India to discuss and resolve the tariff tussle between the two countries. The visit comes against the backdrop of US President Donald Trump's latest tariff warning to India. Earlier this week, Trump had tweeted that India's tariff on American goods were no more acceptable to the US government. Parikshit Luthra joins us now with more details on the visit of the US trade representatives. Parikshit, what are the expectations from these talks at this point in time?
Well, it seems that India would definitely like to keep expectations low on this one, because trade dispute is something which has been a very important issue for the United States president. And the view coming from our sources in the government, and especially diplomatic sources, is that one should not be too hung up, and we should not be too hung up with the trade issues and look at them in a very narrow perspective, because we need to be guided by the larger strategic importance of the Indo-US relationship, and therefore if we need to give them some trade concessions, those should be done so that we get larger strategic concessions in future, and maybe concessions on the 5G relationship as well. So having said that, it seems that you have officials from the Ministry of External Affairs, Commerce Ministry, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology who are there for that meeting. You've got the Assistant US Trade Representative, the Deputy Assistant US Trade Representative, who will be having brainstorming sessions for 2 days. Those meetings are still going on. Predominantly, the tariff issue, the e-commerce issue, the data localization issue would be discussed. My sources are telling me that 5G is not on the table, but yes, it could come up for discussion in some way or the other. You can expect this meeting to set the tone for a meeting between Robert Lighthizer, the US Trade Representative, and Piyush Goyal, the Indian Commerce Minister, in the days to come.
In Osaka, when the Prime Minister and President Trump met, they had a very good meeting. And it was decided, and naturally trade was also discussed. And in that meeting, it was decided that officials from both sides will meet to resolve all outstanding issues related to trade. Our approach, Parikshit, is to engage with them very constructively, in a very positive manner.